Hello, good evening. Welcome to another show. So I'm going to review some more Dawkins shenanigans tonight. How are you? Hopefully all of you have been well. I've been away from this for a little while. Let me take a look here and see. Yeah, I'll set this thing up as soon as I find out. Where's that damn intro? Here it is. All right. Okay, we're back. Man, that looked kind of large on screen there. What's going on with that? Let's try it this way. Shrink that down. Maybe this way? No, too big. Ugh. This way? That's just weird. Okay, so anyway, I haven't covered a lot of Dawkins stuff lately, and most of the reason for that has been because I've been kind of bored with it. And I mean, which is kind of bad to say, but Darth hasn't really been doing anything all that different that I haven't already covered quite a bit. And a lot of the videos that have been coming out kind of recently have been a little on the longer side, so it's kind of hard for me to cover those on a weeknight, on a school night, as it were. There are a couple longer ones that I'm probably going to be covering over a couple of weekends, probably this weekend coming up, and then the next weekend. I haven't figured out exactly which ones I'm going to be covering, but Jay Robin also has another video going on. He was on Atheist Experience, and I kind of want to lift my embargo. I had made a dedication that I wasn't going to cover anything of his other than just his crappy behavior. Lately, his crappy behavior, from what I understand, has improved. So now I guess the only thing I have left is to deal with his arguments again until he loses his mind, goes back on cocaine, whatever it was he was doing before. So anyway, let's see here. Let's say hi to everybody that has shown up live. 8:30 at Awesome. Welcome. John Fabiano. Good to see you. Benghazi. Jay released the fact you'd be live, so I'm actually early. Yeah, well, good to see you. Scott Duke. Hello, hello. Wilberforce. I'm dying for the commentary on this video, especially when Matt chats with Tom Rabbit after. I'm going to be covering a little bit of that, but not as much. So this video is 47 minutes long, but I think only about 15 minutes or so is the conversation between Darth Dawkins and Matt Adams, and that's what I'm probably going to be talking about the most until we get into it a little bit. And I'll probably skip through their conversation. The link is in the chat if you want to watch the rest of it if you haven't already. But yeah, I'll be covering less of their conversation afterward and more of the conversation between Darth and Matt. But there are a couple interesting points in there, and I'm probably going to be making similar points to some of the things that Matt brought up to, or Tom Rabbit brings up to Matt. Spooky, good to see you. P. Barnes. Michael Deaton, hello. Chris Taylor, hello. God equals the square root of -1, hello. All right. Scuba Diver, hello. I'm supposed to be going to bed, got an early start in the morning. Damn you, Jefferson. Well, I mean, you don't have to catch this live, or just leave it playing and then just go to bed, turn the sound off, something like that. But don't let me tell you what to do. David's good to see you. Space Lord, good to see you as well. Alex Baptista, Cascade, Shatterhouse 5. Bree, welcome. I think that's everybody so far. Oh, Maria McIntyre, good to see you. Hugh Mungus. Nico. Hogtie Champ. I just got here. Start over. Joke's on you, Hogtie. I've accomplished nothing, so you've missed nothing. Q Zorper 1. Hello. And the Gochi Kid, 1954. Good to finally catch you live. Love your breakdowns. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Bite Me TJ. Good advice. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me live for this one. And thanks for everybody who watches it later. So with that, I'm going to turn to, I think I've pretty much set this up. Anybody that watches my stuff knows that Darth Dawkins has been on a little bit of a tear through Clubhouse. He's been alienating people left and right, which has been kind of weird because he's actually kind of lost a step. That's something I've been criticizing him about recently. He had a little bit of a lull early summer, late spring. And now that he's back, it seems like more and more of his engagements with people have he's kind of missing some critical thinking. Something's up. Something's not right. So I don't know if there was a tragedy in the family or there was an illness or both or what, but he seems a little off his game. But it hasn't stopped him from being a grade A crank and a complete creep to a lot of different people. And the biggest thing that keeps lingering, I've covered a little bit, has been his obsession with being slandered and libeled. And this goes to James is Tired, a fellow Christian. Maybe Darth doesn't consider him a fellow Christian, and others. And their associations on social media with various atheists that Darth believes are guilty of slander and libel, which, yeah, that's a reach. So this is just more of this kind of drama. So I don't know how much more of this I'm going to cover. Now, if he has a grade A blue ribbon breakdown at some point, I'm going to definitely cover that. But there's only so much that I can really do with this. And I'm always thankful that Tom Rabbit and Daz catch some of this stuff on Clubhouse because I'm good and proper blocked. But usually this is the first time I see this stuff. I happened to turn this one on and listen to it a couple days ago, just to kind of, I think it came out like 2 days ago. I'm not sure. Gave it a listen while I was working and thought there was a really weird dynamic going on as usual between Dawkins and Adams in this one. So but it brings up some interesting, I think there's some really interesting things to point out, at least in that initial part. So, okay, I've wasted enough of everybody's times now. So, all right, we'll get this going. Special shout out here. Hello, Maya. Always good to see you. Thank you for showing up. And Mr. Lumpkin. Way to go. Hello. I should say way to be. Womper Force. Dee Dee's cadence and inflection is literally sounding more and more like a high school mean girl. Yeah, it kind of is. And his preoccupations with this kind of like behavior and what people are doing and who they should and shouldn't be talking to and kind of doling out this advice to his fellow Christians, even though I think they're starting to doubt, how devout this guy is. So, all right. With that said, let's get into this one.
Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube app.
As usual, let me know if the sound's not working.
There, Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit! Yeah, you're making excuses.
Here, but I don't
He
think
made a mistake.
And maybe he should apologize.
You know what it is? You're just
maybe
a
he
mass
should
loser.
apologize to you.
No, maybe you should.
Darth,
maybe you
Darth,
should not be giving the right hand of fellowship. No, what I'd like to know from you is why are you
or not?
Yes or no? I want to know from you is why you give him the right hand of fellowship
because he's
when
my
he is
brother, Darth, just
okay,
like
and,
you are.
And he is publicly slandering and defaming
you understand that?
Right. Okay, so already talking over each other. This is already a classic. So you can probably see why I was kind of attracted to this. Automatically right into the strife. So Darth is automatically telling Matt Adams that Matt needs to reconsider whom he's offering the right hand of fellowship to. And I think they're talking about James is Tired here. And Darth might also be talking about like some of the atheists that he talks with, like Godless Girl comes up occasionally, Tom Rabbit, the rogues gallery of people in Darth's mind that are out to get him, right? But he's accusing, like, how dare you associate? First of all, if these people were actually guilty of slandering and libeling him, and they happen to be on social media streams, what difference does it make if Matt happens to be in the same room with them having a conversation about an unrelated issue, right? I mean, we're in social media at this point, and you don't know who anyone really is. We don't know how many convicted offenders of various different, backgrounds might be on social media or otherwise. There's plenty of innocent people out there too. But there's lots of different things about people's past that they don't share on social media, and for good reason, right? There's a lot of anonymity. And Darth, and it's not like Darth's not actually saying that. Darth thinks like, well, we know from these people that they're actually committing this libel and slander right here in social media. He can't substantiate that because there's nothing to really damage here. Darth doesn't have a YouTube channel with subscribers. He can't maintain one because I think he had one back in the past, and as the story goes, it got ban hammered quickly by the YouTube powers that be because he can't stop being a homophobe and a bigot. So there's nothing here for him to lose. if he's trying to claim that he's being maligned in a way that's preventing him from socializing in certain circles, he limits his social circles. He bans all sorts of people. In fact, I think if you actually saw the number of people that he's actually blocked, it's probably a longer list than average. It really kind of goes against what, kind of the history, the point of Clubhouse. Anyway, but now here he is in a room with fellow Christians, and he's telling Matt Adams, a fellow Christian, that he should reconsider extending the right hand of fellowship to another fellow Christian, James is Tired, because James is Tired has slandered him. And now, what I think is interesting, this is interesting on multiple levels. There's nothing in the Bible that says Christians should behave this way in one way or the other, right? If Darth believes that James has done something wrong, then he needs to go to him and correct his behavior. The weird thing is what Darth thinks James has done wrong is that James came to Darth as a fellow Christian to correct his not so Christian behavior. And now Darth believes that this is slanderous and libelous, right? James said he took steps to try to mitigate this, to keep this from being in like these kind of more public groups. I think he probably tried, but stuff real sloppy on Clubhouse. So it didn't work. And so Darth is now super pissed at James. And now by extension, he needs to figure out what he's going to do with Matt Adams, since Matt Adams is talking to similar people, so has shared interests talking to these non-believers in Clubhouse. And so now Darth is going to correct he's not even correcting Matt's behavior, right? He's sort of preemptively telling him, look, here's how it works. If you're team me, then you need to not associate with these people, right? When someone then tries to phrase this as, Darth, are you presenting me with an ultimatum that I either am with you or against you, if I, depending on whether or not I live up to what you say? Darth will then backstep from that and say, no, I'm not saying that you need to do that, right? Darth has now said this thing twice about the right hand of fellowship to Matt. And Matt is now going to be like, the reason I extend the right hand of fellowship to James is Tired is because he's a fellow Christian. He's a brother in Christ. Now watch how this changes. It happens quickly.
Right. So
you understand
let me ask you this way.
Let me ask you this. Understand what a Christian is supposed
I
to
understand
do, Darth.
you. Now,
when he has a Christian brother who is struggling. We're not supposed to abandon them, Darth. Do you understand?
I didn't ask you to abandon him.
That's exactly what you're doing, Darth. You're asking.
Okay, so he's not supposed to extend the right hand of fellowship to him, but he's not supposed. But I don't expect you to abandon him. What the hell does that mean? Hog tie with the educational fact. For context, the expression "right hand of fellowship" is from the Epistle to the Galatians. It can be found in Galatians chapter 2. Important note. But yeah, so he's saying like, hey, you need to reconsider like extending the right hand of fellowship to this individual. And Matt's like, well, I'm not going to abandon him. Darth's immediate thing. Ooh. See, this is how automatic this is for Darth. As soon as somebody paraphrases what Darth says and follows it up with something that sounds like it entails something negative, Darth immediately becomes defensive and then denies that that's what the entailment is. Oh, no. I'm not telling you to abandon any Christian. No. And Matt's like, no, that's exactly what you're saying, right? And Darth's going to say, no. And in Darth's mind, as long as he didn't use the word, you need to abandon James is Tired. James is Tired deserves to go to hell. That would be a terrible thing for Darth to say in those exact words. Darth is saying, no, Matt, this is about you and to whom you extend the right hand of fellowship, right? Okay. Neat way to beat around the bush, but the basic entailment is Matt should abandon associating with James is Tired. But Darth can't even agree to this, kind of basic entailment. So that's point one. Already losing the plot, already incapable of critical thinking. That's point number one, right? Like he's already kind of implying that he has a demand of Matt. Matt saying this is what the entailment is, abandoning a fellow Christian. Darth saying, no, that's not what it is at all. Darth doesn't clarify. At least I think he doesn't. Let's see if he does.
Now, Matt, I'm not asking you to abandon him.
Yeah,
okay, so stop misrepresenting my position.
And
now,
let me
ask you this question right now. You sound a bit agitated right now. I understand.
So now Darth is going to point out that Matt is agitated. Well, now you sound agitated. I don't think that Matt's wrong here in getting agitated. Darth is telling him not to associate with another Christian. And the only reason that he's providing is that that Christian has been slanderous and libelous to Darth in ways that Darth cannot substantiate, right? Now, James has been critical of things that Darth has done and things that Darth has said. That's true, right? He's accused him of engaging in racially insensitive language and in racist language, racist behavior, maybe. I don't know if he took it that far. But Darth didn't deal with that. Darth just took those accusations as being James's attempt to kick him between the legs, I guess. And now Matt's like, okay, so now it seems like I have to, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just take your word? I'm supposed to abandon a fellow Christian because you're having a hard time with them, because you're having a disagreement with them. You're saying that they did these things. I don't see how they're doing those. But I'm just supposed to take you at your word. Flip this around, and here's the second example of why Darth has lost his capacity, any possible capacity for critical thinking at this point. Darth does not abide by the stricture that he's attempting to place on Matt Adams, right? And he's telling any of these people, like, you shouldn't go into those rooms, you shouldn't engage with them, you shouldn't talk to them. Darth will get bored, and 2 weeks after saying that to somebody, show up in one of those exact same rooms looking to pick a fight, right? If somebody mentions that, hey, weren't you just in a room with Godless Girl and Haiti and Tom Rabbit? And those are just 3 of the people that he said that we need to stay away from, because when we're in their rooms, or we're in a room and they show up, you say it looks like we're in there kissing their butts. We're in there sucking up to them because we just can't get enough of their company. What does it look like when you're in there, Darth? Right? And Darth's defense is, well, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm Darth Dawkins. I'm evolution phones. I go in there to kick ass and chew bubblegum, right? That seems to be his claim. Like, he's Daddy Darth. He knows what he's doing. The rest of you look like a bunch of suck-ups, right? So it's do as I say, don't do as I do. When Daddy Ding Dong gets bored, he's going to go to all the places where he told you not to go, right? You can't handle it. Your tiny minds would shatter dealing with the stress of the kind of ministry that Darth is wielding with just one hand. I mean, this is truly some like delusional, megalomaniacal bullshit from this guy. And yeah, it's affecting his ability to critically think about this. Just stripping this away and taking the diva out of it, it makes absolutely no sense. If somebody were to go to Darth and say, hey, Darth, I don't want to see you. If you and I are going to have conversations, I don't want to see you in a room with so-and-so over there because he and I don't like each other. I fully expect Darth to appropriately tell that person where to go, because it has absolutely nothing to do with him, right? And I think Darth is capable of realizing that. But for some strange reason, Darth isn't able to apply this to other people. And I wonder why that is.
A bit agitated
what I get
right
tired
now.
of, Darth?
Why are you
I get tired
agitated?
of you sending me back channel messages telling me not to associate with people because you have judged them in some way that you don't think that they're worthy to have fellowship with.
Oh no,
and
no,
that's what you've done with James.
They have judged themselves unworthy. They've made it abundantly and transparently clear. Okay, they have made it abundantly clear.
I don't think
How?
he
They're
has.
going to suck up to the atheists. You see,
How is that clear, right? It's clear because they appear in those same rooms. Darth appears in those same rooms. So someone can just turn around and tell Darth the same thing. Well, it's been abundantly clear to me that you're judging yourself, because who did I just see you in a room talking with? You were just hanging out. There's, I think, the video before this one on Time Rabbits. He's in somebody else's room with no mods, and he's talking to a Clubhouse user named Donald, I think. And I think he gets triggered. I don't know if he gets kicked or he quits. I think he rage quits. As far as I know, Donald's an atheist. What's he doing in there, right? Like, now, I mean, Darth doesn't mind talking with atheists. He claims that he can have civilized conversations with lots of atheists. It's just the obnoxious, evil trolls, the ones that want to slander and libel. And those are the ones he has a real problem with, right? But he ends up in the same channels with them. So it sounds like Darth is also putting himself in a position where it's plain to anyone that he has judged himself. He is lacking.
you act in a completely shameless way with the worst of the worst atheists who want it. Listen to me. You want it.
The worst of the worst atheists. Now, keep in mind, I'm one of the worst of the worst, right? This is something I find interesting. Darth will still go in and talk to. He will occasionally go into rooms where some of these people might appear, or at least people that are very closely acquainted with him will also appear, He will do that, right? And even if he's got them blocked, if say Tone Loc's got a room open and Darth's late there, and Haiti goes in there, and Haiti ends up on the stage and she's talking with him, or this JT guy who's on the screen here, right? Or Matt Adams, or any of these people, right? And she's having a conversation. He'll show up and just butt right in. So, okay, so it's appropriate for him to do that, I guess. But anyone else is sucking up, right? It's not just the fact that you're hanging out with atheists or talking to unbelievers. No, that's what Darth is talking about. You're talking to a special category of scumbag atheists that Darth has zeroed in and declared, persona non grata. People he still occasionally goes and talks to when he's appropriately bored, or feels he needs to really kickstart a fight with. JL Warren, good to see you. Darth expressing how his evangelism is actually about himself. Yeah, kind of like a lot of these guys. Is the right hand of fellowship like a Dutch rudder? I think Christianity would be a lot more interesting if it were. So.
There are a small number of atheists. Hey, Matt, because you want to kiss their heinies, you want to sit there and chat with them, with the worst of the worst who engage in absolutely vile and disgusting slander against myself, and you just look the other way like it's okay that they do that, and that they're.
What are they supposed to do? They don't control their rooms, ding dong. I don't get this. Does Darth do this? I mean, so if somebody mistreats J. Robin or Tone Loc, right, they get into a good screaming match, right? Does Darth take it upon himself the next time he sees that person to talk them to specifically mention that exchange and then dress that person down every time it happens? Because in order to be consistent, that's what he would need to do. I think that I saw you in a conversation with Tone Loc, and I think that you treated him crassly. So, I think I don't think people should hang out with you. And I just wanted to say that you ought to correct yourself and check yourself before you wreck yourself. Whatever he's going to do. I don't know that I've ever heard Darth do that for another user, right? But he expects these people to do this for him, right? And this is such childishness. What are they supposed to say? That is a dispute between you and these other people. Why do you expect Matt Adams and all these other people to jump in there and do this with you? That doesn't make sense. That's not their burden.
Worthy of being publicly spoken to, when you should be drawing the line in the sand.
You're talking about atheists now. I thought we were talking about James.
Okay, well, either one.
That's a good catch from Matt. Because that's when Matt was getting good and upset, right? He's getting upset because Darth specifically wants Matt to avoid James, right? And now Darth has lumped him in with all these horrible atheists, and now Matt's one of these guys that goes into these rooms, just like Darth does, talks to these atheists, and then, you're just kissing up to them. You just can't get enough of their company. Okay. Talking about what does that have to do? The reason why they're the same, James is tired and atheist, is because they've had similar lines of criticism that Darth automatically renders as being irrelevant because they can't possibly be true. You can't judge Darth, right? Only God judges Darth.
They have both conducted themselves in a way that crosses the line in the sand, which is beyond disgusting and reprehensible. But you just want to chit chat with them on Christian philosophy and
just chit chat. Okay, I thought that's what you were doing, Darth, right? Matt Adams gets into knockdown, drag out arguments with some of these people. In the conversation that follows afterward, Tom Rabbit admits to on multiple occasions calling Matt a dishonest piece of shit. Right? It's not like they're always friendly. So this is truly I love how Darth this is just so subtly abusive, right? Oh, well, you're just on here chit chatting with them. What are you doing on here other than Clubhouse is designed around chit chat, right? It's only old creaky debate bro wannabe types like Darth that want to turn it into a fucking arena. Unbelievable. Daisy, Darth was literally in a Haiti room and J. Robin room 2 days ago. Yeah. But Haiti was one that was supposed to be off the list. I think Tom Rabbit says something later on in this video, something to the effect of, well, He's told people that he's banned them, and then 2-3 days later he's in a room with them later. He's talking to them again, or somebody checks to see if they've actually been banned by Darth, and they haven't. He just said that he did. Yeah, he's an idiot.
Apologetics, as though these people haven't crossed a vile and disgusting line in the sand. Have they crossed a disgusting line in the sand?
Well, according to what you said, then yes, someone.
They crossed the line in the sand. Well, who drew the line in the sand? They didn't. But Darth made the claim that some of these people have slandered him and libeled him. Right? That's his burden to prove. Right? They don't have to prove they're innocent. Right? And now he's trying to say, well, they've crossed a line in the sand. Okay, cool. Did they? Oh, what do you think that slander and libel is? All right. If Darth goes on a show and I hear him talking in a particular way, if I hear him go on for 10 minutes or so, right, going out of his way to line up a series of explanations of all these weird things about Martin Luther King Jr., right, in a conversation where he's trying to defend himself against allegations of being a racist, and lays out like all the top 10 reasons, from white supremacy websites and rallies about why Martin Luther King Jr. not only wasn't beneficial for the civil rights movement, but was actually a horrible person, a not so secret communist, possibly a Satanist, definitely a deviant, and a traitor to the country. Right. That goes beyond the pale of like somebody who's just sort of a baby boomer bigot kind of thing, like, Black Lives Matter. That kind of scares me, don't all lives matter? But, that Martin Luther King Jr., I really like that. I have a dream speech. That was, golly, that was great. That kind of like just classic kind of boomer, out of it, half cracked, not woke at all kind of person. Right. And I used to agree with Time Rabbit that I thought Darth was kind of in that kind of category, right, where he's just sort of like this, not woke, basic bigot, if there is such a thing. But not after hearing that. I mean, for me, if Darth ever tells me, if I ever have a conversation with him again and we get into the subject of whether or not he's a racist or not, my proof for Darth being a racist and damn near white supremacist is that screed that he went on with James is Tired and attempting to educate him about all the negative things about. I mean, it starts off with Martin. He's just talking about how terrible a human being MLK Jr. is, right? And he's been bringing up all this bullshit, right? Now, there's certain things about MLK Jr.'s past that were not great, but he's bringing up things that were designed to get people like Darth to read into, to draw the conclusions that he's making, right? And on top of that, when James is like, well, what, you don't think he was beneficial to the cause of civil rights? Darth's claim, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was basically clout chasing. There were better people that were involved in that. He jumped on the civil rights bandwagon because he wanted the glory. Right? That I've heard this exact same thing from actual white supremacists, right? Like most people who are just sort of basic bigots won't go to that length, right? So they've had these conversations before. People have brought this criticism up to Darth, right? And when they do, it goes nowhere, right? Whoever brings that up, he loses his shit. He freaks out. He brings up that as an actual defense, which it wasn't. To me, it was just, Exhibit A. And then goes on to basically say, well, any Christian that criticizes Darth's statements or his behavior is basically no better than an atheist, and they should just be dismissed. No more fellowship with you, right? As if this guy actually engages in real fellowship. This is just social media, meandering. This is, whatever.
What they did, I would say, is cross the line.
Okay, have you not been repeatedly informed, both publicly and privately, against the vile and disgusting repeated slander and defamation that they have impugned to me? Have you not been repeatedly informed about this?
Yes, and I've actually known some that have.
Why then do you continue? Why? Oh, are you talking about Godless Girl?
Yes.
Okay. Do you actually take that as being sincere?
Actually, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt right now. I think
you and her should have a conversation.
Aren't you supposed to? Right, Darth's going, oh, so you took that seriously. And Matt's like, well, I'm taking her at her word. I think that she was honest, or I think, she might be honest in her apology. Oh, you're that gullible. As a Christian, aren't you supposed to kind of like be willing to like? I don't. And even if you're not a Christian, there's nothing wrong with taking somebody at their word if they say that they're sorry, right? Like if they seem sincere, you know, you take it for what it is. Like, okay, you know, apology appreciated, and then you watch them and you wait and see if they do something again, right? Like everybody's going to be a little bit touchy, you know, a little bit more guarded around somebody that hurts them or whatever. And if they offer an apology, great. That's the beginning of things. It doesn't just mean everything just disappears. Like I kind of wonder, like, what does Darth think an apology does? Like, like for Darth, it's like, well, when I accept an apology, it's a total grant of amnesty. Like, that's not anything like accept the apology, but proceed with caution, right? That's what most mature people will do. Matt loves to invent parodies of Christian fallacies. Daisy, even my husband doesn't tell me who I can talk to, and he's caught me having phone sex before. Oh, all right. I guess that could get awkward. Oh, let's see. Oh, wait. So is Darth saying that Matt can interact with people? He's just not allowed to be cordial to them? Yeah. See, and there's the thing, right? I guess if following one of these things, Matt were to go into one of those rooms and just put everybody on blast for how they were treating Darth, then I guess Darth would just kiss his ass, right? Like at that point, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. You went in there to set the record straight. Like, no, he didn't, right? Like, because anybody could just be like, no, that person's just doing that to kind of virtue signal for Darth, right? They're just kissing Darth's ass, but by extension, by doing this, they're coming in there and like Darth gets after people for white knighting all the time. But in this case, white knighting for Darth, oh yeah, that'll get him like you get both thumbs up and a big gold sticker on your forehead from Daddy Ding Dong, all day, every day for that kind of crap, right? If you do it, if he catches other people doing that for other people, though, he'll call it out as being weak-willed and cringy and all this other kind of shit. But yeah, no self-awareness, no critical thinking. The dude's, I think we're seeing a human being diminish before us. I mean, it wasn't not like he had a lot of facilities going for him when he started this little journey about a decade ago. But right now, like, the tools he's bringing, to the job, they're rusted. His technique, wanting. His energy levels failing. I'm saying he's an old man. Gums his food in his mouth. That's what I'm doing. All right. Call me ageist. I don't care. He's lost a step.
Sir, you are gullible. She has a long history of trolling everybody and everybody she can, friend and foe alike. I've known of her and about her for 10 to 12 years, starting on Pal Talk.
Okay.
She is somebody who is completely untrustworthy. Okay.
She has acknowledged that.
Yeah, that was part of her apology, or her string of apologies. She apologized to Tom Rabbit and a variety of other people for things that she did back then. Richard Batson, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Thanks for watching. Let's see here. So I thought I caught one. And hello, Michael. Good to see you too. There it is. Okay, almost missed this one. I had the same experience. I didn't think Didi was awfully racist until after I heard him defend his use of the word smear checker, among other indefensible things he has said. Yeah. Hearing the defenses actually makes it worse. But for me, I mean, I don't know why. I thought about it a little bit, but for me, that lengthy explanation to James, that tiring, just pedantic, rambling string of weird conspiracy theories, and I'm like, just muckraking kind of crap that anybody's ever like directed at MLK Jr. since he was, since he was assassinated, and it's like, dude, like the accusations that he was making about like, well, they had these wild parties and there were people doing drugs and drinking and people were having orgies and things like that, right? When the FBI put that thing together, there's something like as sort of like a kind of a psyops thing where you don't, if you're dealing with a personality that's that contentious and you put this information together, you don't need to say the quiet part out loud. What you can do is you can just put the information together and let the racists and the bigots convict the person by association on their own. Right? It's in how you package the information and put it out there. Like, well, here's MLK Jr.'s group, and here's his party, and here's where he was last night, and these parties happened, and sex and drugs and all these other bad things happened, and Not saying that MLK Jr. did it, but we're not saying he didn't. I mean, who knows? You know, it doesn't matter that they knew. He turned in early on one of the nights that they were monitoring one of the Wilder parties, and he had turned in early. And one night, I think when they were monitoring, he was turned in with his wife. And another night, he actually did leave and spent time with one of his longer term mistresses, right? But you know, the adultery thing wasn't juicy enough. Let's see if we can ramp this up a little bit. Engaging in that, investing in that kind of bullshit uncritically. Really sets off a lot of alarms for me, and thinking like, that person's motivated to do this because they're a fucking racist.
Have you heard her?
Okay. Matt, listen. You are gullible. Okay. I have listened to her in other chat rooms, and she continues to do the same deceit and deception and trolling. Okay. Now, the bottom line is...
Okay. Yeah, Cascade, yeah, I might be wrong. Yeah, he might not do that. But I'm trying to think if there's been times when somebody has attempted to white knight for Darth. I think there was one time a few years ago. I remember I was on like Discord or something, and people just attacked him. They just went after him, just dressed in town. He's consistent. Any historical discussion generally ends with Darth presenting fringe theories on individuals rather than engaging with the topic. Yeah, exactly. And when James tried to point out, like, well, wait a minute, you're just kind of like discounting everything he did for the civil rights movement. Darth does discount it. So like, oh yeah, the only reason he did that was for the clout. He's just chasing fame, right? Like, what motivates a person to get to reach that conclusion? Like, I mean, people were harassed, terrorized, brutalized, assaulted, murdered, for years during the civil rights struggles that were going on, and not just people of color. And Darth's just like, oh yeah, he saw his chance to jump into the limelight, and he took it, right? Like, okay, so he was motivated for the wrong reasons, and then he engaged, like everything that the guy did, like nothing that he did. He's not a real Christian. He's not a real minister. His degree is not real. He's not a good human being. He's barely even really married because he's cheating on everybody. He wasn't even heterosexual, right? He wasn't an American because he was a communist. You know, it's just a classic fucking race baiting horse shit that Darth has just gutted whole. And just like, curls up and gets cozy at night, next to his, like, he's sleeping on his pillow that's got his KKK hood on it or something. It's just a piece of shit. Yeah, that's standard in white supremacy groups. MLK and Obama are all bisexual and communist. Yes, exactly. Right. This is a common thing, right? They can't be trusted because they're sexual. It's not just, they'll say bisexual, which is a signal to each other that they're deviant, right? And for anybody else, like, MLK was bisexual, so what? Like, no, I don't mean just that. I mean, he was like, if that's not enough to get you, I bet he actually went after kids or something like that. They'll do this shit. They'll just engage in this stuff, and it has nothing to do with anything associated with reality. Most mature people can be like, yeah, MLK Jr. had his faults, without having to be like, he was the Antichrist. It turns out, like, everything he touched just turned to molten shit. Like, that's, very few people really need to go that way, but racists do, and that's where Darth went with it. So yeah, I still contend he is basically a white supremacist.
The bottom line is this: you're trying to skirt the issue that you are dealing with a small number of people who have decided to cross a line in the sand online, who are engaging in vile, disgusting slander and defamation.
Okay. I don't know that that's actually what they're doing. Hello, Simon. Good to see you. Yeah, those guys do white knight for Darth. Which is interesting because Artangelo's had he's had his ups and downs with Darth, but he will white knight for him. Let's see here. So he's okay. So he's talking about a special category of atheists that will cross this line in the sand, and engage in especially egregious behavior. What's that, right? Like, Darth is a guy that was doxxed, right? And if he's talking about Godless Girl, I think was involved in the doxing of him back in the day, right? To the best of my knowledge, I don't know her very well. I think I've talked to her maybe once in my entire time dealing with YouTube and in any of these social media areas. It's to the best of my knowledge, I don't think that she really engages in any of that. So I don't even think she really uses that against him. As far as I know, she doesn't even refer to him by his given first name, which we now have been able to confirm that is. We've heard in videos, someone in the background where Darth is calling him by his actual first name. I've talked about this quite a bit. So the worst thing that could probably happen in these circles is that somebody doxes you. So I would agree, that's it, right? But if in this case, though, the doxing that happened for Darth didn't really get, like, for most of us, it's more like a partially substantiated rumor, right? Like, it's probably true, but no one can really commit to it. You can't, I can't say for a fact that that's what he is, right? And I wouldn't. I'd have to see a lot of information and a lot of documentation, and I don't care. So given that, no one's really engaging in that kind of stuff at this point. And as far as a lot of the Christians on Clubhouse are concerned, most of them don't know this history about him. I don't think. A lot of them wouldn't, like guys like Silverstar that Darth has had a disagreement with, and other Christians on here that he's yelled at. And they don't know Darth, as far as I know. They don't know his history about this. So given that they don't, when they've been critical of Darth, why did people need to quit hanging out with them? Because I think he actually reached that same conclusion too. These people should be avoided because they're disgusting, right? They're engaging in these bad behaviors. Okay, cool. What's the bad behavior? Is it just criticizing Darth? Because that's all I'm getting. The slander and the libel is if you say that Darth is wrong about something, or that he is motivated poorly, or that his critical thinking is bad, or he's reaching tenuous conclusions, or he's trafficking racist tropes, which he's done. He's punching down, he's a homophobe, he's a bigot, and he's a white supremacist, or at least a white supremacist wannabe. He's a misogynist, he's adjacent, okay. He fits these definitions, so I don't know exactly what his problem is. And the thing is that the accusations that are being made against an avatar who's presenting himself in social media in an anonymous way. So no one's really slandering or libeling him, right? So he is absolutely flipping his lid. This would matter if Darth Dawkins was branded, right? If somebody was coming out trying to cancel him off Twitter and cancel him off YouTube, and he was losing viewers and losing sponsorships or something like that, then yes, he would have a claim right there. Somebody's out there trying to cancel him, and it's causing him to lose his livelihood, right? Then he's got something to say about this. This is just a hobby. He's an anonymous troll that haunts these particular corners of social media and berates people for not being Christian like he is. The specific brand of Christianity that he is too.
And we all know the names of the small number of characters. Yet you want to continue to interact with them like they haven't crossed the line in the sand. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Have these small number of individuals crossed a line in the sand, as I'm putting it, that is beyond vile and disgusting in terms of slander and defamation?
I know of one who has admitted.
Okay.
The rest I don't know. I haven't informed you of it, of what they've been doing? Yeah, I mean, I don't think you.
Okay, now you're lying.
You just told me
now
that
you're lying.
No, you've never given me any details about it.
I told you in private. Do you have a memory lapse?
Yeah, actually, I don't. Could you refresh my memory?
Okay, I'm not going to go through it publicly what I've gone through private with you. Okay,
But you just brought it up. This is hilarious. So I'm not going to go back through those ones. You just brought it up. The individual, like, is it not the case that these people have crossed a line in the sand and were disgusting, slanderous, and libelous today? Okay. And now Darth is accusing him. Well, what did you forget the ones that I laid out to you in private? And Matt's like, okay, refresh my memory. No. What the fuck? Dude, if you don't want to talk, well, why didn't he just make this conversation? Like, he brings this up here, right? Darth has mods in this room. In Christ or chaos, you know the Christian God, and it's time to repent. And Matt's just there basically taking this, right? Like, Matt could be kicked at any moment here, right? He's there at Darth and JK and JT's whim. And Darth's batting him around like a ball of yarn. But Matt needs to be careful who he associates with.
But to dignify them.
Having a conversation. I know that you have said that some people have slandered you.
Yeah, bye, Matt.
And that they have
hit the road. Hit the road, Matt.
Hit the road. Hit the road.
Here's another people-pleasing, butt-kissing, professing Christian who doesn't give a rat's rear end about one of his fellow Christians who's been a friend of his Okay.
But okay. So Matt Adams is expected to cease giving a rat's rear end, as Darth puts it, about Jesus, or James is tired because Darth disliked what James said to him. So Matt apparently, as far as Darth is concerned, only has the capacity to care about two Christians in this situation. It's either Darth or it's James. He can't care about them both. You better get on the right side of things, Matt. And the right side is always ding dong side.
And he just wants to deal with these people. Like, these people are not conducting themselves publicly in an utterly vile manner.
Hey, Randolph.
Okay. Now he wants to say, oh, one of them wants to apologize. Well, what about the rest of them you continue to hang out with? And you...
Simus, yes, he doxed himself. Yes, that's what I've heard. In fact, I heard that from you, Simus, but I didn't want to bring that up. But yes, apparently, and I think I brought it up actually one time in another video, that the story goes that many years ago, Darth did this on a Google Hangout, I think. He left, he came back, and when he came back, he came under an account that apparently was his first and last name, right? So people then are like, oh, okay, well, that's really you. Hey, maybe, that's not what you were in here before, kind of thing. And so his name got out there, it circulated a little bit. And then I think some people went a little ham trying to find out who exactly he was. And I think Godless Girl was one of them, I think. I've heard different things, like she went and interviewed the kids. She tried to contact his ex-wife. She was out to dig up as much dirt as possible. Again, I don't know what lengths she went. I haven't talked to Godless Girl about this. I've only heard from people tangentially connected to these things from years ago. So it's a huge rumor mill. So I take all of that with huge chunks of salt. And reminds me of Milton from Office Space. Anyway, but yeah, a lot of this was caused by he goofed up. He goofed up. He came into a thing with his own name on it. Somebody, people saw it. His name got out there, and he had made enough enemies that it inspired people to go after him. And sounds like they did, and they went and dug up a bunch of information. The crazy thing about this is that the best way to diffuse this is just to let it go, right? Or to tell people, like, yeah, you think that you're onto something, but you're not. But I think people got under his skin and got close enough with some of the information they got. This is just me speculating wildly here. And he's never gotten over it. And because of that, anyone connected to that, or anybody that tries to dredge this stuff up, he gets very upset about, and rightfully so, I think. I think he's right. He's right to be upset that he's been doxxed, right? But this happened a long time ago. Most of the people that he is currently talking about, though, the kinds of people that he thinks have drawn a line in the sand, the people that he wants Matt Adams to disavow, are people that have addressed him over things he said and ideas he's presented, not over who he is or his family history or any of the other things that people supposedly found out about, his kind of seemingly depressing past, right? But Darth seems to have missed this point, right? Because the guy is such an egomaniac and so delusional at this point that he just bundles all that stuff together. So if James is tired comes to him and says, here's the thing, brother in Christ, you were trafficking some language that makes you sound like you came right out of a fucking Klan rally. Now, James didn't put it to him that way, but somebody should have, right? Darth, what? Don't come at me, cuck. I'll get you. And then starts telling everybody associated with him that they need to stop talking to James is tired, because James is now trying to cancel Darth because James is getting into this woke bullshit, probably from hanging out with all those libtard atheists out there, right? This is what's spinning around in his head. But when he brings this stuff up and then he tries to justify his behavior, it's as if James is just as guilty of doxing him as the people that possibly doxed him back in the past after he doxed himself, right? He revealed his own name. He mistakenly did that, sure. People went nuts with it and grabbed it. Once it was out, it was out. It's a massive goof up. It happens, though. And he has not gotten over it since. And now he's just conflating anybody that disagrees with him with all these past things, And here's the thing. For people that think, for praise if he's listening, if you think that Darth Dawkins is capable of forgiving people, you simply have to look at how he treats this situation, right? one person disagrees with him, and another person is caught. Matt Adams is seen talking to that person in another room later, and Darth now like, you are now guilty by association for hanging out with that person who criticized me in a way that reminded me of the past trauma of when these people doxed me after I doxed myself. That's a no-go zone. You need to repent to your Lord and Savior, Darth Dawkins. Like bonkers, just bonkers.
Interact with them like nothing's happened. He's complicit with these people, yet he wants to pretend that he's not. And she has a history of this.
Warren, my response to this, all of you need to repent before Jesus Christ and stop backbiting about Darth. No and no. And I hate to be childish, but I'll stop backbiting about Darth when he stops backbiting about absolutely every other human being he ever exchanges words with. Tall order? Impossible? Definitely. So.
Okay. Given this history.
Also, I'm not backbiting about him. Like, I'm pretty sure Darth watches some of these channels, so he knows exactly what I say about him. If he didn't have me banned, I'd say it right to his face. I think he's a white supremacist, a closet white supremacist, an outright racist, a misogynist, a homophobe, a bigot, a hypocrite, a liar, a narcissist, which isn't really, that's kind of bad. He behaves in narcissistic ways. He might actually suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. I think that for that he needs treatment. So I'll check that one off the list. But dude's got problems, lots of problems.
There's no reason to trust her. Okay, has she become a Christian? No, but he wants to talk about. Oh, she wants to apologize. How gullible is that? And by the way, do you think that Matt really believes that? I think Matt is highly, highly intelligent. There's a lot that I like about Matt. I don't dislike him as a person. But do you think that he really, deep down inside, believes that?
He said he gave her the benefit of the doubt. I don't understand why Darth has a problem with us. I just like, okay, somebody has a bad history of being abusive or being trollish or taking advantage of people when they're on social media, right? And then years later, they've decided, you know what, they're trying to change their behavior, and they've come out and they've said apologies to people. They've apologized for this behavior. What does a responsible person do when they hear about this kind of individual? Given what they claim their reputation was, given what other people say the reputation was, some of the activities that they did, especially the ones that could be substantiated, and then given that they're offering an apology, right? Take them at their word, but proceed with caution. This is so bizarre to me. Like Darth is legitimately blaming Matt. Oh, of course he doesn't. No, I don't dislike Matt as a person, right? Okay. Well, the way you were talking to him, it certainly. I don't know how many people that you like you say goodbye to by telling them to hit the road and then mute them and hang up on them essentially. I don't do that to people that I claim to like. At least not on a day that's not April 1st. So what he's now saying, from the sounds of it, is that what Matt needs to do is not forgive people that Darth has deemed unworthy of forgiveness, right? Because if you do, then you're just being gullible. Cool, Darth. Yeah, cool.
And if that's the case, then why is he continuing to interact with a small number of other individuals who have crossed the same line in the sand of public slander and defamation? They know that it's slander and defamation.
Well, it might have been, but I doubt it. You doxing yourself was a problem, right? And if somebody's like constantly revealing that, that's probably not cool, but it's not necessarily slander or libel, right? Now, doxing people is definitely against terms of service and most social media things. So nowadays, if you just appeal to, you call that stuff out, and you probably get a person that's engaging in it repeatedly, especially if they're doing it repeatedly, probably get them kicked from the service. Outside of that, the slander libel stuff, right, that he's brought up is kind of odd to me because I kind of wonder if there's anything to this. Part of me wonders, like, okay, what if, did any of this actually splash into his real life? right? Because I don't know, right? As far as I know, I only know Darth from this kind of stuff, right? And I know his first name is Gary. But some of the stuff that people found out about him, I kind of wonder if he's sort of projecting onto the people that he's had disagreements with in social media, due to, from what it sounds like, what his life has turned out like. Right? Like he was living with his mom. He's admitted that he was married and that he's separated, so that's not really a doxing thing. He has kids, and I don't think he sees them anymore. So like, people have talked about that and said, oh yeah, there's all these abuse allegations and all this kind of stuff. Maybe there is. I don't know if those have been substantiated, but he himself has said that he was married. He's not currently married now, so they're clearly separated. He has kids, but he's not in contact with them, so clearly there's a separation there. So I just kind of think like, okay, so but now it's like, okay, well, here's the thing. I'm just going to blame these people for engaging in this behavior. And because of your libel and slander, this is why my life got flushed down the toilet, right? From what I understand, most of what people found out about him was the stuff that he did to cause the separation in his immediate family. And then when they are like, hey, check out what I found out about you, ding dong, look at this stuff. Like, now here's the thing. I don't think that that's really necessary to do to a person. But if you are somebody like Darth Dawkins and you are parading around with an amateur ministry and you are haranguing people for not being holy and being righteous and being a believer and all these other kinds of things, and criticizing people left, right, and center for the immoral and disgusting and despicable things that they do, and you've engaged in all of them, right? There's a word for that. It's called a hypocrite. So you have to be kind of careful about that kind of attitude that you present when that happens, right? And if it turns out that you probably have engaged in a lot of those things, but you're still judging people as if your shit don't stink, right? And you get super duper upset when people reveal that hypocrisy, you're not dealing with reality, right? That's just Darth feeding his own ego. And that's probably why he's where he is today. Oh, by the way, hello, Godless Girl. Matt Adams defends me in this. Yeah, he does a little bit. This is actually my favorite part. Before they cut over to this, he has this talk with this user named Milos. It's Milos. I'm going to pronounce it, or is it AS? No, I think it's OS. I'm going to say Milos, like the director. Uncle Beck, welcome. Good to see you. And let's see. And Jay, good to see you too. I think you've been in here for a little while. I think I may have missed you. Mythic, good to see you. I think that's everybody new. All right, let's see.
He knows that it's slander defamation, but he continues to talk with them as though they're worthy of being talked to. Right?
Yeah.
What difference does it make if they're worthy of being spoken with? Like, I don't get, like, how do you know what any of these people are doing? How many sex offenders? Darth Dawkins has been on some form of social media, between Discord, YouTube, Google Hangouts, Xbox Live, whatever, a Pal Talk, and now Clubhouse. How many convicted sex offenders has Darth inadvertently spoken with in the decade or more that he's been on social media? Right? If he had known what their convictions were and their crimes were, would he have deemed them worthy to speak to? Right? Like this is bizarre, right? Now, if he wants to try to lay this out, like, okay, no, I'm just basing it on the kind of behavior they've demonstrated within the confines of social media. Okay. Well, is Darth going to separate from Matt Adams because Matt Adams is still willing to speak to James is Tired? And Darth wants Matt Adams to side with Darth and not talk to James anymore, apparently. That seems kind of weird. Does that rise to the level of some of the other people that are not worthy to speak to and some of these things? Like, I mean, what's the due diligence here? Like, how far do you push this kind of thing? This is a strange standard, right? And it doesn't apply to Darth. If Darth needs to get his jollies and he needs to get his dopamine kick, he's going to run into any of these rooms with any of these slanderers and libelers and mix it up with them, right? And if anybody tries to call him out for the inconsistency, he'll give the same defense he always does. I'm Darth. I do what I want. I run shit here. You just live here. King Kong ain't got shit on me. You know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not highly familiar with Matt. I spoke with him a few times, but I think what happens is there's people that they're desiring a dialogue. They want there to be interaction between Christians and non-Christians.
Correct.
And oftentimes they drop down into, throwing pearls before swine, refusing to knock the dust off your sandals in these situations. And it renders Christianity as being a object of ridicule rather than,
So what? Christianity is supposed to appear foolish to the non-believer. That's not a problem, right? Like the idea that you as a Christian have an obligation to the Great Commission. You need to go out and spread the gospel. The tricky thing about this kind of stuff is that if you get that advice from the Gospels, it gets really, really weird, right? Because depending on the gospel that you read, and I have to get back into the verses to find this kind of stuff out. There's a part where, I don't know if this is in Mark or Matthew, when Jesus sends his apostles out, I think he sends them out like kind of 2 by 2, right? They're to go out and do the same kind of stuff that he's doing. A lot of people skip this stuff. When the apostles go out, they go out and perform similar miracles to heal the sick, they cast out spirits, and they preach to different people, right? So he's got like Jesus has already got like Jesus Co. going on, a little franchise. And while they're out there, one of the things he tells them, like, this is what you're supposed to do. If you're talking to this particular group and they just reject you and they turn you down or whatever, do not cast your pearls before swine. And when you leave, kick the dust off your sandals to let them know, you're not going to be back. They're not worth talking to, right? There's a weird fine line between this, right? Because the way Christianity is set up now, there really is no reason to do this, right? Based on most of the common theology. It would be kind of weird to do that, right? You present the information of the gospel, and if people make fun of it or laugh about it or whatever, you just walk away. You don't really need to do this, right? It's a weird thing to be in the Gospels, right? It makes more sense if you think about the Gospels in terms of what were these people actually being asked to do? What if Jesus was a little bit more like Darth and less like the kind of Jesus that Paul was talking, that kind of like promised returning Messiah, God, King that was going to make everything better? What if he was a political revolutionary, right? Well, if you're sending out your lieutenants to go out and preach the ministry, then the thing that you're asking them to accept isn't like, well, believe in Jesus and everything's going to be okay after you're dead. You'll get eternal life. But I don't know that was actually Jesus's message. Right. I mean, it isn't definitely in some of the Gospels. The emphasis changes depending on which gospel you read. But if the emphasis in some of them was join me or else, or join me and we'll screw up Rome, we're going to overthrow Rome, right? Then it makes a little bit more sense to do this whole knocking the dust off your feet, right? Because you're gonna mark that person that you're not with me, you're against me, right? If it's a call to some kind of like rebellion, right? If it's a little bit more political, then it kind of makes sense. It makes sense with that emphasis, right? The entailments track makes less sense if it's about like, well, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm going to present this idea to you. The Holy Spirit's going to eventually do its thing, as like a lot of Christians think, and eventually, maybe you will be saved, maybe you won't. Don't you know? The gospel is foolishness. The word of God is foolishness to those who don't believe. Okay. So Milos here is basically talking out of his ass, right? Well, if you do this and you don't take steps to stand up for the faith, you risk making Christianity a laughingstock. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's built in. There's nothing wrong with making Christianity a laughingstock. It's already a laughingstock. That's already been described in the Bible. So Milos, read your Bible. Read it better.
A source of salvation. This is my opinion.
Oh, look, there are certain individuals that are continuing to perpetuate vile and disgusting, slanderous, defamatory charges of multiple kinds that they themselves know isn't true. It's just for the purpose of making atheists laugh. And yet he continues to go to them and interact with them as though they're still worthy of being spoken to.
What that doesn't have it, like now he's laying a burden on Matt, like, oh well, you went and talked to them and you gave them your seal of approval by even deigning to speak with them, right? Like the people that you're talking about aren't quite as egotistical as you are, Darth, right? Like there are other Christians who will speak to everybody, right? Even the people that treat them poorly, right? Darth is the one that has like this weird, like, militant cult, like, you're either with Darth or you're against me. And if you're against Darth, I don't give a fuck what you believe. I don't care if you say you love Jesus or not, right? He doesn't give a shit that James is tired as a Christian. He doesn't give a damn. He's not going to listen to James anymore. James called Darth a racist. So James must be categorically wrong about that thing and therefore everything else. Because Dawkins, his critical thinking skills are either non-existent or shattered. Bridge the Divide, Jail Warren. Okay, got my show to do. Have a good one, Jefferson. Be sure to vote for me. There's website there. If anybody who is for horror fans, J.L. Warren is a horror filmmaker. Faceofhorror.org 2022. So yeah, take a look at that if you're interested in it. I should go there too because I don't think I've been there yet to vote. Good luck, JL. And I need to wrap this show up here pretty soon. Okay, let's get Milo's talks a little bit, and then they're going to cut over to the discussion that Matt Adams had with Tom Rabbit and a few other people.
Do you notice he's getting agitated? Because I was strongly confronting him about his compromise, right?
I'm not super familiar with that, but I know that there is a group of militant atheists that seek to do nothing but insult Christianity rather than interact with the topic.
And that's not what I'm referring to. Small number of atheists, they're well known, who have persisted in engaging in slander and defamation over several years. Okay. And he knows about this as a fellow Christian, a fellow apologist, and he wants to continue to interact with them.
What difference does it make? What does your history with any of these individuals make a difference? Like, it does not matter. That does not, like, so like if Matt Adams is in a room and like the 4 people that you've labeled as being persona non grata, one of them shows up, Matt Adams needs to drop everything that he's doing and cancel his plans and leave the room. He needs to abandon fellowship with a bunch of other people by extension because the one person that you don't want to see him associating with shows up after the fact. So this puts a burden on Matt to do. And the reason that he needs to do this, I believe, is because Darth thinks it looks bad. Darth sees guys like Matt in these rooms and it looks like they're kissing bud. They're sucking up to these atheists. When Darth's in those rooms, of course, Darth doesn't look like he's sucking up. You know, Darth shows up and he's got a shark's fin on his back. But you guys all look like babes in the woods, right? Like, I mean, this is just some arrogant shit. I mean, more guys like James is tired and Matt, I think they need to just, I mean, I don't know if they will because they're probably, I think they might be a little bit more consistent in some of the Christian messages and not tell Darth to just pounce in. Hogtie writes, 2 days ago, Ozzy and I disagreed about whether triangles exist. It led to a fight, so I blocked him. So now you are not allowed to talk with Ozzy or I won't be your friend. Oh, man, it's a tough call. But, you know, I think the atheist thing to do is to take your word at it, Hogtie, and simply deny fellowship to Ozzy. I don't need any proof or any further verification of what happened. It's clear that Ozzy has lost his mind and he's just out to get everyone now, right?
While they publicly persist in slander and defamation. Okay?
Yeah, I think we might be talking about
I guarantee you that, look, if as Matt continues in his apologetics and people get to know him more and more, right? If it became clear to me that there were one or more prominent individuals, whether they're professing Christians or not, and they were publicly slandering and defaming Matt, right? And it was clear to me that it wasn't just an insult or a quip, but it was persistent slander and defamation. I wouldn't go out of my way to speak with them, or I would just say, "Hey, go away. You're a disgusting person. You are unworthy of speaking to."
When has he said this? When has he said this in defense of another person? This is fantasy as far as I know. If anyone does know in the chat, let me know because I'm fascinated by this. Like, I would tell them they're a disgusting person and unworthy to speak to. Cool. When have you ever done that? I don't think that that's ever come up. And thank you, Simus, for the reminder. Red Fang, good to see you. What's up? And Warren brings up, despite his shortcomings, Darth is trying to convince atheists that their worldview is unfounded and to accept the gospel. That's actually not true. The worldview that atheists share with Darth Dawkins is kind of based on similar assumptions. He volunteers hours of his time and deals with arrogant gossipers like you. Okay. I don't know how arrogant I am, but I am a smarmy bastard, so I'll take that. He's not really volunteering his time, right? I don't think this isn't volunteering time, right? This isn't the soup kitchen that Darth's engaged in. Darth's doing this to get a kick out of it, right? And be interesting if Darth ran a soup kitchen, because he'd have one of minestrone and then one of like a cheddar broccoli, right? And let's say Darth hates broccoli, right? So then he stands there in front of the two, and as people step up, he's like, all right, I've got soup for you. Which one? Minestrone or cheddar broccoli? And the person that asks for cheddar broccoli, he just, no, you failed. You're not worth talking to. Get out of here, you libelous slanderer. Sorry, I fantasize about what Darth would be like if he ran a soup kitchen. So, but no, here's the problem, Warren. If Darth wants to convince people of the validity, the soundness, the virtue of his worldview, when he engages in conversations like this, where he's completely lost track with his capacity, like this is not simply gossip, right? Anybody that sees these kinds of conversations can see that this guy's not engaging in good faith on multiple levels, right? There's no reason to hold Matt Adams to this standard, right? There's no reason to drag him into any of this, right? But he just wants to call out everybody for their shortcomings, right? And the only shortcoming that Matt Adams has, according to Darth Dawkins, is that Matt will still hang out or occasionally go to these rooms where these other people show up. That happens to be, at this point, given the way Matt Adams, his circle of acquaintances on Clubhouse, that's who he ends up talking to most of the time. Those are connected to the people that he follows and the people that follow him, right? Darth should know this by now, right? But Darth seems to want to put on Matt Adams that he needs to change everything about what he's doing, up to and including abandoning rooms or doing what Darth's saying now. Well, if I heard that, I would call that person out. I don't think Darth would. I don't believe him. I don't think that I've ever seen that. I know for a fact I've never seen it. I would be interested if anyone else has, and if they have, if they can document it. I think if somebody were to ask Darth, why don't you prove that? Why don't you prove, do you have a recording of you white knighting, right? Because that's what Darth calls it when other people do things like this for other users in social media. Darth will call them white knighters, and has multiple times. He will mock them and ridicule them incessantly for that, right? But that's what he's saying that he'll do. He'll go in and white knight for a Christian. No, he won't. No, he's been around the block too many times. He knows how these rooms. The dude is a cynical, jaded bastard when it comes to a lot of the social media stuff. He knows better. Right now, he's just kind of projecting this image like, I think I would go in there and I would stand up for Christian A if they were abused by any of these slanderous, not nincompoops. Like, okay, well, that's cool for you to say. Milos may not know Darth well enough to get that he's blowing smoke up his ass. Warren, you probably should by now know that Darth is talking out of his ass.
You know the gospel, go away. You need to repent. But he wants to continue to suck up to these individuals, show up in their own rooms. And he thinks I'm going to idly sit by and not confront him about it. He was making excuses for James is tired, as though James is tired is just, oh, he's just uninformed. Oh, he's just mistaken about his charges of racism. All James is tired is doing is regurgitating the same vomit accusation.
Okay. Let's see. Randolph, apparently Jay will be very unhappy if you bring Godless Girl in, but not him. I can connect you with her on Discord if you like. I'm already connected with Godless Girl on Discord. I think we've direct messaged each other on there. Well, not Discord, maybe Club. No, I think both. I think Clubhouse. I think I follow her on Clubhouse too. I'm not sure. But we are connected on Discord. So, but thank you for that. No, I probably won't bring anybody in for this one, but mostly because I don't want to get off. If I brought Godless Girl in, most of this has been about like Darth and Matt. I have a feeling that if I brought Godless Girl in here, the conversation would turn to like the history of how Darth got like doxxed or whatever. And I don't really need to get into that. Like if anybody's interested, go check with Godless Girl. I don't know if she's got videos about that on her site, but she would be a more accurate source. So,
that yours truly is a racist from instances that are completely taken out of context, purposely talked about and misrepresent in order to do a slander and defamation game, just like Saul Alinsky wrote about.
Saul Alinsky? Oh, I forgot about this part. He starts tossing Saul Alinsky under the bus. Man, that guy's been dead since like 72. Christopher Mowdy, good to see you, sir. Lemon bars can go fuck themselves. See, this is a perfect example, right? Christopher Mowdy is at this stage. He's almost to the Darth Dawkins stage, right? If I ate a lemon bar on camera tonight, I think he would tell anyone that he knows. I know he knows my brother. I know he knows Simus. He's going to be like, you know what Jefferson did? He ate a lemon bar after I said lemon bars can go fuck themselves. I don't want to see you guys in his live chat. I don't think you should talk to that guy. He is unworthy of the right hand of fellowship. Don't worry, I don't have lemon bars, so I'm not going to do that. Silas, I love lemon. Yeah. See, there you go. I'll just let that work itself out in the chat. Warren, just read your Bible, believe what it says, trust that God knows best, and stop bad-mouthing ministers of the gospel. Okay. No. You don't just read your Bible. I think you have to make a concerted study of the books of the Bible. It's not a single narrative. Believe what it says. That's not good evidence. That's not good advice about anything for anyone almost ever. Trust that God knows best. Well, you can, but you can't really trust in something that you don't think is real. So that one's just sort of irrelevant. And stop bad-mouthing ministers of the gospel. I will as soon as I start seeing what I think are genuine ministers of the gospel. If I start seeing individuals who are spreading the ministry of the Christian God who demonstrate some of the fruits of the Spirit and not a complete absence of any of them, like Darth, and I don't badmouth every minister of the gospel. There are some ministers of the gospel that I happen to kind of like and respect. Kind of drawing a blank on exact names right now, but there are a few, and most of them would probably be considered heretics as far as Darth is concerned. So,
in Rules for Radicals, the book.
Rules
the
for
Democrats
Radicals
in the United States participate in. All they're simply some of these atheists are doing is Rules for Radicals. Right? Yeah, and he's getting upset because I'm confronting him about it. Well, too.
He's getting upset because he's confronted. What does this have to do with? I think Darth. I'm not going to say that Darth hasn't read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, but the way he's talking about it kind of sounds like everything that he needed to learn about Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals he learned from Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh. I think Hannity probably trafficked in that more than anybody. Yeah. It just makes me wonder, like, is Darth okay with the fact that Saul Alinsky sold his services? He was a capitalist. Like he would offer his organization services to different organizing groups for a fee. Do little workshops and give them a rundown, help them organize and stuff. You know, he firm believer. If you're good at something, never do it for free. Well, no, Saul Alinsky. Who knows? Wilberforce, I basically have done that just with the Kama Sutra. God bless you, Wilberforce.
Bad.
A real good example from Saul Alinsky's playbook is the setting of the agenda. I can't remember exactly the wording that he used there, but these people like Godless Girl and what's his name, Tom Rabbit, they would instead focus on their perception of drama rather than the issue and the topic at hand, the point of dispute. Instead, they want to increase their YouTube paychecks and so on and so forth by playing up these topics that they would prefer to talk to about rather than the dividing issues, whether or not they have a worldview that is compatible with the way that they live.
Now, do you know?
Thanks, Milos. You've just made everybody a little bit dumber for having spoken up. What about talking about Darth's racism is going to like improve people's paychecks, right? Now, I admit some of this drama will attract a crowd, but at a certain point, like it just gets kind of. I mean, I'm getting bored with it, and I think I'm seeing like a drop off in viewership too because there's only so much I can say about this clown at this point, and he's just bitching and moaning now about people in an isolated group that I'm sure there are people viewers of my channel that are like, okay, well this guy's talking about somebody on Clubhouse. I'm glad I never go to Clubhouse and run into these crazy ass rooms, right? But other than that, they've got no investment in any of this kind of stuff. So I'm kind of hoping this might be the last like kind of drama one I do for a while. Maybe start get back into like talking about ideas and shit instead of just talking about this guy's like, shoddy ass behavior. Thank you for the fun facts, Hogtie.
That the confrontation that I just had with Matt will be now a headline video on Tom Rabbit's show. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yet,
so he acknowledges that
to feed this internet troll.
Okay, so Matt Adams is the one responsible for. Darth, you were the mod in this room talking to Matt Adams and insisted on the topic. Matt Adams could not have controlled that conversation even if he wanted to. But now Darth is saying Matt Adams is feeding the troll, Tom Rabbit, because this conversation is going to be something that Tom Rabbit, and he's not wrong in his prediction. Darth was absolutely right about one thing. Tom Rabbit picked this up and made a video out of it, right? Who could have told him that was going to happen? James is tired, whom Darth doesn't want to have fellowship with anymore.
And cooperate with him. Okay?
Yeah, things like Tom Rabbit should be mostly ignored. There's no value to
there are
certain
that. There are certain individuals, okay, mostly professing atheists, who should be categorized and treated like pariahs. Because
right, absolutely.
they deserve it because of their unrepentant conduct. And yet, Matt just wants to look the other way. It has. Did you notice? Did you notice how he said he was upset about my back channeling messages to him? You know why? It's because he has a guilty conscience. That's
nice projection, Darth. Remember when he said I'm pretty sure Matt actually said why he was upset about the back channeling, because they were annoying him, right? I think he was kind of transparent as to why they bothered him. Right? And Darth's like, well, you know why he was bothered? It's his conscience. Okay. Fabio's here. Welcome, Fabio. So English is not my first language, but why a powerhouse like Didi keeps saying slander and defamation? Isn't slander defamation, which is spoken as opposed to libel? He really is the tautology master. Yeah, he's done that a couple times. He'll say it's libelous or it's slanderous. And it's like, okay, who's writing this stuff about you, or who's saying this stuff about you? Because as far as I know, most of it is it's just people saying things about him. But then he doesn't. I think somebody even tried to ask him at one point, are you actually accusing people of a legitimate crime here? The actual crime of either slander or libel. And then he's just he just kind of backs off it. And okay. So you just want to inflame the situation and make it sound like what these people are doing is something so bad. There's literally nothing that he can do to this. He'll just say, well, it's equivalent to slander and libel. And you don't want to hang out with criminals, do you? Well, I don't know how many criminals I'm hanging out with when it comes to social media at any given time. So who gives a shit? But what I can tell you is that whatever they're doing doesn't rise to the level of slander or libel. So, and I don't have to be a lawyer to figure that out. And one great piece of evidence that I had, if they were actually engaged in slander or libel, Darth would have a case that he could bring against them. He could potentially sue them. And he can't.
That's why. He knows he really can't justify continuing to treat these people as though they're dignified individuals to be interacted with publicly on Clubhouse, given their past behavior. Okay, it's been explained to him in detail, going back many years, of these individuals' activities.
Warren, the point of this video is that this is Darth wallowing in his own sense of self-aggrandizement here, right? This is about how people are treating him. This isn't about his apologetic. This is about Darth telling other Christians who they can and can't hang out with, who they should not be spending time with on social media, right? This has nothing to do with his apologetic at the moment. This is about how Darth comports himself with fellow believers. So, yeah, I'm not dealing with his apologetic at this particular moment. Agreed. But that doesn't mean that what I'm dealing with, the point isn't relevant.
On Discord and on Google Plus days, he doesn't care. Okay? So in other words, according to Matt, It doesn't matter that a small number of these unbelievers can commit egregious slander and defamation. He's just going to keep on talking with them anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a failure of like recognizing who you're interacting with. It's very, very clear that people.
Yeah, you need to be very careful. You need to realize right off the bat who you should be discriminating with, who you should be discriminating against. Just based on the sound of their voice or some of the things that they say, like, oh, well, how do you identify? Well, I identify as an atheist. Oh, I can't talk to you. You're a filthy atheist. Do some movie shows. Yeah, I should. I haven't actually figured out how to do those without like getting in trouble. Like, because it seems like you can play clips of them, but you can only play so many. It seems like real work. But I am thinking about trying to do like some movie review stuff. I don't think they're going to be particularly popular because the one that's really been banging around in my head is not going to be well received. It's a critical review of a movie that did fairly well.
Like Tom Rabbit and Godless Girl, they have no they have no intention to interact with what is being said.
1 hour later.
So we heard the video from this morning with you and Darth. It kind of starts off when you guys are already pretty heated. So we wanted to get like the play-by-play of what happened right before the video started.
We're basically up to that point pretty much, because then he starts wanting me to, I think he said, not extend the right hand of fellowship to James, because James, he believes, has publicly slandered him. And that's when I told him I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to basically neglect a Christian brother.
Yeah, so he kind of gives a rundown of what they already said. And I think Tom was fishing for something, more background stuff. Dark City. Yeah, I could probably go. I haven't seen that movie in years. I did not like it. I don't like a lot of Alex Proyas's movies. I don't think he really ever did a good one. I remember seeing The Crow when it first came out in theaters, thinking like, yeah, that's a pretty cool movie. I was pretty young when I saw it. And then I saw it about 5 years after that. And I was like, this did not hold up well.
Simply because they have a disagreement.
Part's in the video. We heard that part. We're just wondering what we missed.
That was pretty much it. I gave it. That was about right where it picks up right there.
Are you saying you hate me now, Humongous? Yeah, I mean, sorry. Yeah, I got like I've watched a lot of movies. I'm pretty jaded. If you're talking to somebody else, and sorry about that. The Fountain. I need to watch that again. I remember watching it and being kind of like puzzled by the whole thing, and I generally kind of like Aronofsky stuff. I agree with this. Obviously, the most appropriate movie would be Unforgiven. Perfect movie for an atheist.
So it wasn't.
Okay, so what you said before is basically like everything that happened before.
It really did not get real heated up until that point. That's when I really started. When he started saying something about extending the right hand to fellowship and not wanting me to do that with James, that's when I started getting loud.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, apologies. Yeah, if you like Dark City, I mean, but again, that's one of those movies I haven't seen in a long time. It might have aged better on me. I just remember seeing it. I don't think I liked it when I saw it in the theater, and then I think I saw it on video, DVD or whatever, a few years afterward, and it was a little bit better, which is kind of a shame because I really the main actor, and I think the main actor is Rufus Sewell. I really like him in general, but yeah, I just thought the script was kind of bad. Visuals were cool. Some of the ideas in it were kind of nifty.
And I started, and then he started over talking me and I said, you're telling me to abandon a Christian brother. He said, no, I'm not telling you that. And I said, that's exactly what you're trying to do. And then,
okay, so that just to be clear. So like we know the contents of the video, but I just want to be clear. The trigger where like things kind of like you took the gloves off or whatever was when he was basically telling you not to have any fellowship with James. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah, that was it.
What do you remember how he said it? What did he say exactly?
Well, I think that was pretty much extending the right. Why would you extend the right hand of fellowship to someone who publicly has slandered him or something like that? And I actually said, I don't think, and I do remember this part because I said, I don't think James is intending something about intentionally publicly slandering you. It may have, I acknowledged it to Darth's perspective. He may have thought that, but I don't think that was James's intention. I think James genuinely thinks he's racist, and that's pretty much my position on it. And I don't think James is, I'm just going to publicly slander Darth, and that's what I was telling him, and he didn't like that. And then that's when he was talking about extending the right hand of fellowship, and that's when it got really kind of heated there. And I just had enough. Because if you're going to tell me that, then heck, I mean, how many months have I been in his rooms? Or had rooms with him in it and all that, and then he's gonna tell me how I should do in terms of other Christians. And like I told James and them earlier, I have more of a problem with Christians coming and telling me what I should do than I do atheists. If an atheist wants to say, well, you shouldn't, you're immoral, you know, all of this and that, that's one thing. But when a Christian tries to decide they're going to lecture me on how to be a better Christian, and it's all centered around something that seems to benefit them, then that's what I have a problem with. And that's how I perceived it. It seemed to be all about what he wanted, and he really didn't offer, any justification, because I could point out plenty of inconsistencies in his own position if I wanted to. Now, it didn't happen, but I could have.
My experience with Darth, Matt, is such that, you're going to, block them, you're going to, avoid them, you're going to do this, or I will do this to you, and it's nothing more than just bullying, in my opinion. It's just, that's just what he does. He has a history of this.
And then when we started talking about Gigi, he started calling me gullible and all this. And look, James and I was accused of being gullible just the other day by Tom and them, because Gigi, they said, is trolling us. But I do think that, because I remember when Gigi was apologizing to Tom and apologizing to others because of the past things. I do think that when she said before that she would genuinely have, apologize and talk about some of the stuff she did with Darth, I don't think she's trolling there. I think she's being sincere. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think she was sincere about it. And he just said I was gullible there. I'm okay with him thinking I'm gullible, but if he thinks that he can actually get through to an atheist by the approach he has, and I'm not talking about the presuppositional approach. I'm talking about the very aggressive approach that he has. I would say he's on the gullible side as well.
Okay, that's not a bad point from Matt. Wraith Knight writes, I yelled and berated Darth. Listen, if you want to throw out claims of slander, either sue someone or sit down, shut up, and take it like a big boy. When did you say that, Wraith? That would have been kind of fun to hear. I remember seeing in another video you went in and kind of and yelled at him, which I thought was very entertaining. Dark City was in reference to movies that didn't do well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that movie was a very big bomb. I don't even know if it's like a cult hit anymore. I don't know if it really. It's kind of. I think it's just sort of slipped into obscurity. Looper. Yeah, I got some critical things to say about Looper.
And I think that a presuppositionalist who's going to be a lot less aggressive, such as maybe JT or JK or someone like that, or Truthy or somebody like that, I think is ultimately going to be more successful because they're also doing it, showing that they, kind of respect for the other person. And I just think people, including Christians, sometimes will end up reaping what they sow. And if he wants to, that route he chooses, then I'm okay with that. I'm not going to say you shouldn't do that. And I don't expect him to tell me I shouldn't share the stage with certain people, Tom and Jack and all of them, or James.
Well, yeah, because they disagree with Darth, and therefore they're also just as guilty of the slander and the libel and the defamation. Jay says, "Don't listen to my brother. He's a movie snob." He's talking to me. I'm talking about me. Yeah, I am kind of a movie snob. I'm a little jaded. This is interesting. Darth has said some of the most vile and horrific shit that has ever been said to Godless Girl. True low-life stuff. Yeah, I heard it got the term acrimonious has been used to describe their relationship in the past. I can't imagine that it's been it's gotten any better. But it seems like Godless Girl has made an effort to kind of change the way she handles some of this stuff and deals with some of these people online. So, but it doesn't sound like Darth is willing to forgive. So he's just not there yet. But yeah.
Or any of them, and something about me snuggling up to them or anything like that. If he wants to view it as snuggling up, then so be it. I really don't care. And that was kind of basically my position. But honestly, the straw that broke the camel's back was when he told me to quit sharing, basically told me to quit extending the right hand of fellowship to James. That got under my skin.
Exactly. This is actually what he has a habit of doing. He makes these ultimatums. You do this, and it's usually like, block another individual or that type of thing, or I will do that. And it's usually like, who cares if you do? Like, go ahead. And that's how I look at it.
Darth, oftentimes he's got a long history of doing this, where he's saying that stuff like, he's talking to moderators and he's like, I'm not telling you what you should do. This is your room. But this person has a history of this, and like, you might want to kick them or block them. He has
But
a
what
way.
if they don't?
Well, then they're basically calling it.
Does he just go like, oh, I guess you decided not to? Does he? I don't think he just sits back. I personally think he's more forceful than suggestive, like how you're saying.
He'll. It's just like it's just obvious because he'll be constantly saying things like, "Are you going to let this happen? Are you going to do anything about this?" But he's not telling you how to run your room, right? He's obviously telling you what you ought to be doing.
It has become, it really is Benghazi. I have seen every mention of every movie, and I've had an opinion. So jingly keys indeed. It's like the laser pointer in front of cats. Like I will engage. But yeah, I think at this point, like they go over this a little bit, and then this is really the other half of this. I think I'll probably stop it here because there's some kind of interesting. There's a little bit of back and forth, and then Tom kind of gets after John, I think, a little bit, and maybe Matt for kind of making some assumptions about some things. But other than that, but for the most part, it's a fairly interesting conversation. But they just kind of analyze how this is working out, and Tom kind of like lays out like what he describes as the mistake these guys are making, right? Like, but not a mistake that John made. He's like, John has had to deal with less of this kind of Darth drama, because when Darth came to John was like, hey, if you don't do this, then I'm just not going to talk to you. John was basically like, hey, you're going to do what you're going to do anyway. So, just do it. And that was pretty much it. Right. Like, and I don't know that Darth ever really blocked John. Right. Like, I think he just continued to he threatened that he was going to. I didn't catch if he's currently blocked now. I think they get into more of that later. But that's pretty much it. Back into the movie thing. Jeff, did you ever hang out on the IMDb message boards? No, never. In fact, I've never had any kind of actual account on IMDb. Probably should have. Probably should have cast some votes for some movies, but oh well. I gotta ask, what if your brother said that you were not worth talking to, and then we should stop extending the right hand of fellowship? PS, not a cult. Thanks, perfect. Yeah. Casting aside any doubts that this is in fact a cult. John from Cincinnati, that crazy ass show that that was the show that HBO canceled Deadwood for. Dumbasses. Anyway. Sorry, see, jingly keys. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. Yeah, I really wanted to cover the first half of it because I thought the conversation that Darth and Matt had really kind of illustrated some of the problems that Darth has. I know Warren, who's Mac Gruber, doesn't appreciate that kind of stuff. We're pointing that out, like, oh, you should just look past all this kind of stuff. And, you know, somewhere underneath all of this vile, antisocial, misogynistic, hate-filled rhetoric is a guy with a great ministry and ultimately a message of love. Like, okay, yeah, sure. And it's working great for him. It's working super awesome for him. Like, as soon as he runs into difficulties on social media, of all places, the places where you can just, most of this stuff you can just let slide off your back, right? It's water off a duck's back as far as most people are concerned. Darth takes all of it personally. Well, not all of it personally. He picks and chooses what he decides to take personally. And then he just loses his cool. And then everybody else is, and then he tries to turn this shit up. So, but yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. It's just a further example, just to further that the narrative that I think that's been going on. That I've been watching Darth for a few years now. I haven't been known about him for the decade or so that he's been on here, but it seems to me, I have seen some of the stuff that he's done in the past, and it seems to me like he's kind of missing a step here. He should really find another outlet other than social media. He should consider actual church. That would be better than this, or legitimate therapy. That would be great. So yeah, next video will probably be, well, I haven't really decided yet. Probably we'll be covering something a little bit different. And yeah, I'm still kind of tossing it around as to whether or not I'm going to do a rambling video essay about a movie review, just to see what happens. But it won't be Dark City. It won't be. It'll probably be Nope. That was the last movie that I saw, kind of big movie that I saw, that did fairly well critically. And I guess I like Jordan Peele. I liked Us, even though a lot of other people didn't. I thought the ending was a little rough, just a little kind of jarring. And then he did the other one, Get Out, which was really good. But Nope was kind of my opinion when the credits rolled. Like, nope, I don't think he did it. I don't think he got it with that one. So yeah, Michael Frederick Nope was Matt. Yeah, I can't really talk about it without giving spoilers. So that'd be one of those things where, especially my complaints with it. But there was just some narrative stuff in it and some camera. It was weird, just some of the visual things that they were doing with the story and trying to like get a theme across. I thought was really weird. And then when it kind of gets put together, it's like, oh, okay, that was really, really forced. And like, I mean, you see some with these movies, like he's getting just kind of like a little bit more self-indulgent, which I should probably shut up. Otherwise I'll get blacklisted. You know, they're never going to pick up my screenplay if I start criticizing filmmakers out here. But anyway, the movie's been great. Get Out and Twilight Zone are his best work thus far. Yeah, I didn't see all of Twilight Zone. I think I saw 1 or 2 episodes of it. That was pretty good. I like a lot of the stuff that he produces, and yeah, I think he's a really good director. And he's a hell of a writer. But some of the stuff, like, it just, I don't know. Nope, just kind of left some things out there that I thought were kind of, I don't know, not that entertaining. So anyway, with that, before I let the jingly keys take over, I will wrap it up here. Thanks everybody, as usual. Thanks for the always lively live chat. Jesus, lost my mind. Yeah, I think that'll be it. Next time I come back, will probably be with something not Darth, but it might be J. Robin. So don't worry. I'm not done mining this well for lulz. So with that, I will catch you all later. I hope you all have a great night. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your support. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, whatever. Do all that kind of stuff. And I will catch you all later.